I stood there in the middle of the grocery store, frozen, watching my entire world collapse in a single moment. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, with dark curls bouncing around her shoulders, ran up to my husband and threw her tiny arms around his legs. And then she said it. She looked up at him with those big brown eyes and said, "Daddy." My heart stopped. Actually stopped. The shopping basket slipped from my hands, and I heard the eggs crack against the floor, but I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Because my husband, the man I'd been married to for 7 years, the man who told me over and over again that he never wanted children, the man who made me give up my dream of being a mother, was staring down at this little girl with a look I'd never seen before. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't surprise. It was recognition. It was love. And in that split second, I knew. I knew my entire marriage had been built on lies. But what happened next? What I discovered in the weeks that followed, it shattered me in ways I never thought possible. And I need to tell you this story because maybe, just maybe, you'll see the signs I missed. Maybe you'll protect yourself from the kind of betrayal that nearly destroyed me. Where are you watching this from right now? Are you sitting at home? Maybe with someone you trust beside you? Drop your location in the comments. I want to know who's listening to my story tonight. And please, if you've ever felt that gut-wrenching moment when everything you believed in crumbles, hit that subscribe button, because you're not alone. None of us are. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. 7 years ago, I met Daniel at a coffee shop in downtown Seattle. I was 26, working as a pediatric nurse, and he was this charming 32-year-old architect with the kind of smile that made you forget your own name. We talked for 4 hours that first day. 4 hours! I remember thinking I'd never connected with anyone like that before. On our third date, I told him about my dreams. I wanted a family. 2, maybe 3 kids. A house with a backyard where they could run and play, family dinners around a big wooden table. I grew up in foster care, bounced from home to home, and I'd promised myself that one day I'd create the family I never had. Daniel listened to every word. He held my hand across the table at that little Italian restaurant, and he said, "Suzy, I need to be honest with you. I don't want kids. I never have. My childhood was complicated. My parents were terrible. They should never have had children, and I promised myself I'd never put a child through what I went through." I remember my heart sinking, but he squeezed my hand tighter and said, "But I want you. And if that means we figure this out together, if that means maybe someday my mind could change, then I'm willing to try. Just give me time." Give him time. That's what I did. I gave him 7 years. We got married 2 years after we met. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and a few family members. My foster sister was my maid of honor. Daniel's brother was his best man. I wore my mother's ring, the only thing I had from her before she died, and I felt like maybe, finally, I was building the family I'd always wanted. But as the years went by, the conversations about children became arguments. Then the arguments became cold silence. Then the silence became resentment. "Can we at least talk about it?" I'd ask, my voice breaking as I watched him scroll through his phone, avoiding my eyes. "There's nothing to talk about, Suzy. I told you from the beginning. Why do you keep pushing this?" "Because people change, Daniel. Because I'm 33 years old now, and my window is closing, and I—" "Then? Maybe you married the wrong person?" Those words. God, those words cut deeper each time he said them, and he said them a lot toward the end. Toward the end of what I thought was our marriage, anyway. Turns out it was the end of something else entirely, the end of my ignorance. Do you know what it's like to grieve a child that never existed? To feel your body aging, your chances slipping away, month after month, while the person who promised to build a life with you acts like your pain doesn't matter? I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Patricia Chen. She was kind, patient, and she never judged me. Not when I cried through entire sessions. Not when I admitted that I'd started resenting my husband. Not when I confessed that I'd thought about leaving him but felt paralyzed by the fear of starting over at my age. "What are you most afraid of?" she asked me during one session, about 6 months before that day in the grocery store. That I'll leave him and never find anyone else. That I'll end up alone, without children, without the family I've always wanted. That I'll have wasted my entire 30s on someone who never really loved me enough to even consider what I needed. She leaned forward, her expression gentle but serious. Suzy, do you think staying with someone who dismisses your needs is better than being alone? I didn't answer her, because the truth was too painful to admit out loud. I was terrified of being alone. So I stayed. I stayed and I suffered, and I told myself that maybe loving him was enough. Maybe I could learn to live with the emptiness. God, I was so stupid. The grocery store. Let me take you back to that moment because it's seared into my brain like a brand. It was a Saturday afternoon in March. One of those rare Seattle days when the sun actually breaks through the clouds and everything feels almost hopeful. Daniel and I were shopping for dinner. We were hosting his brother and sister-in-law that night, and I was trying to decide between salmon and chicken when I heard her. Daddy? Daddy. That high, excited voice that only children have. Pure joy, completely unfiltered. I turned around, thinking some kid was calling for their father, and that's when I saw her running down the aisle, running straight toward Daniel. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Dark curls, a pink dress with white flowers, tiny sneakers that lit up when she ran. And she was running to my husband with her arms stretched out wide. Time slowed down. I saw Daniel's face transform, first shock, then panic, then something that looked almost like tenderness. He bent down just as she reached him, and she threw herself into his arms. Daddy, I found you. Mommy said you might be here. My voice came out as a whisper. Daniel? He looked up at me, and I swear to God, I've never seen anyone look so terrified. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The little girl was still hugging him, her face buried in his shoulder. Daniel, who is this? A woman appeared at the end of the aisle. Mid-30s, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, pushing a shopping cart. She stopped when she saw us. Stopped dead, and the look on her face, it mirrored Daniel's. Pure, absolute panic. Lily, honey, come here, she said, her voice strained. The little girl Lily pulled back from Daniel and looked at me for the first time. Hi, are you Daddy's friend? I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't process what was happening. The blonde woman rushed forward and grabbed Lily's hand. I'm so sorry, she said, not meeting my eyes. She's confused. Come on, Lily. But Mommy, that's... Now, Lily. They disappeared around the corner. Just... vanished. Like a nightmare that evaporates when you wake up. Except I wasn't waking up. I was standing in the grocery store, eggs broken at my feet, staring at my husband who still hadn't said a single word. Who was that? My voice was shaking. My whole body was shaking. Suzy, I can explain. Who was that child? People were staring now. An elderly couple stopped their cart. A stock boy pretended to organize cereal boxes, but I could see him watching us. Not here, Daniel hissed. Let's go home. I'll explain everything at home. Tell me now. Right now. Is that your daughter? The pause before he answered told me everything I needed to know. That fraction of a second where he looked away, where he swallowed hard, where his whole body seemed to deflate. Yes. 1 word. 3 letters. And my entire world imploded. Have you ever had a moment like that? Where reality just breaks? Where everything you thought you knew reveals itself to be a lie? Drop a comment if you have, because I need to know I'm not alone in this. I need to know that someone out there understands what it feels like when the ground disappears beneath your feet. And please, subscribe if you're not already, because this story gets so much worse. And if you're in a relationship, if you trust someone with your whole heart, you need to hear what comes next. You need to know the signs I missed. The drive home was silent. 23 minutes of the most suffocating silence I've ever experienced. I sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, watching the world blur past, and I felt like I was drowning, like I was underwater and everyone else was up above, living their normal lives, while I was sinking deeper and deeper into darkness. Daniel's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. I could see him glancing at me every few seconds, his mouth opening like he wanted to say something, then closing again. When we pulled into our driveway, I got out of the car before he even turned off the engine. I walked into our house, our beautiful house that we'd bought 3 years ago, the house I'd imagined filling with children, and I went straight to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water because my throat felt like sandpaper, and then I turned around to face him. Talk. He stood in the doorway, looking smaller somehow. This man who always seemed so confident, so in control, now looked like he wanted to disappear. Her name is Lily. She's 5 years old. Her mother is Emily Thornton. We dated before I met you. It was brief, just a few months. And then we broke up, and I didn't hear from her for almost a year until she called and told me she was pregnant. Each word felt like a knife. When? When what? When did she tell you she was pregnant? What year? 8 years ago, right before I met you. The water glass slipped from my hand. It shattered on the tile floor, water and glass everywhere, but I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. 8 years? 8 years, Daniel? You've had a daughter for 5 years and you never told me? I didn't know how. You didn't know how. I was screaming now. Actually screaming. You told me you didn't want kids. You made me give up my dream of having children because you didn't want them, and the whole time you already had one. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Please, please explain to me how this is anything other than what it looks like. He stepped toward me, careful of the broken glass, and I stepped back. I couldn't let him touch me. If he touched me, I would shatter just like that glass. When Emily told me she was pregnant, I panicked. I wasn't ready. I didn't want to be a father. I offered to pay child support, to help financially, but I told her I couldn't be involved. I couldn't be a dad. And she accepted that. She said she'd raise the baby on her own. But you are involved. That little girl called you Daddy. His eyes filled with tears. Actually filled with tears. About 2 years ago, Emily reached out again. Lily was 3, and she was asking about her father. Emily thought. She thought maybe I'd changed my mind. Maybe I was ready to be in her life. And Suzy, when I saw her for the first time, when I held my daughter for the first time, don't you dare say what I think you're going to say. I fell in love. Instantly. Completely. She was this perfect little person, and she was mine, and I couldn't walk away from her. I couldn't. The room was spinning. Actually spinning. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. So you've been seeing her? For 2 years you've been secretly playing daddy to this child while telling me, your wife, that you didn't want kids? I was going to tell you. When? When were you going to tell me, Daniel? After another 5 years? After I hit 40 and it's too late for me to have children of my own? When exactly were you planning to mention that you've been living a double life? Do you see it now? Do you see how someone can look you in the eyes every single day and lie? How they can hold you at night and lie? How they can promise they love you and lie? I want you to think about that. I want you to really think about it. Because if this can happen to me, if I can be this blind, this trusting, this completely deceived, it can happen to anyone. Where are you right now? Are you alone? Are you with someone? Look at them if they're there. Really look at them. Do you know them? Do you really? I don't remember much of the next few hours. I know we argued. I know I threw things not at him, just things. A vase. Some picture frames. His laptop. I watched them break and felt nothing, because nothing could be as broken as my heart in that moment. I know he tried to explain, tried to justify, tried to make me understand, but there was nothing to understand. He chose her. He chose his daughter over me, over us, over our marriage. I see her twice a week, he said at some point. We were both sitting on the floor now, exhausted. Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings. Emily and I have an arrangement. I'm in her life, but we're not. Emily and I aren't together. We're just co-parenting. Co-parenting. I repeated, the word tasting like poison. You're co-parenting a child you told me you never wanted, while I've been begging you for years to even consider having a baby with me. It's different. How? How is it different? Because Lily already existed. I couldn't choose whether or not to bring her into the world. That decision was already made. But having another child, planning for a child, that's a choice. And I'm not ready for that choice. I laughed. Actually laughed. It was a horrible, broken sound that didn't even sound like me. You're not ready? You're 40 years old, Daniel. You have a child. You've been a father for 2 years. But you're not ready to be a father with me? The look on his face told me everything. He didn't want children with me. That was the truth. He just didn't want me to be the mother of his children. I need to stop for a second. I need you to understand something. I need you to really hear this. I gave up everything for him. I pushed aside my own dreams, my own needs, my own future, because I loved him, because I believed him when he said he couldn't have children, because I thought I was being a good wife by respecting his trauma, his boundaries, his fears. But it was all a lie. All of it. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, I wasn't even enough to make him want to change his mind. His daughter from a previous relationship was enough. Some random child from a brief relationship was enough to make him realize he wanted to be a father. But 7 years of marriage to me? That wasn't enough. Do you know what that does to a person? Do you know what it feels like to realize you're not enough? That you were never enough? If you do, please comment below. Please let me know I'm not alone. Please subscribe and be part of this community, because we need to support each other. We need to tell these stories. We need to warn each other. I left that night. Packed a bag while he sat on our bed, watching me, crying, begging me to stay so we could talk more. But what was there to talk about? What could he possibly say that would make this okay? I stayed with my foster sister, Rachel, for 3 days. 3 days of crying, of rage, of confusion. Rachel held me while I sobbed. She brought me food I couldn't eat. She let me talk in circles, processing the same betrayal over and over again. What do I do? I asked her on the 3rd night. We were sitting on her couch, drinking wine, and I felt hollow, completely empty. What do you want to do? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Should I forgive him? Should I try to make this work? Rachel set down her wine glass and took my hands. Suz, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to really think about the answer. Can you ever trust him again? Could I? Could I ever look at him without seeing that little girl calling him daddy? Could I ever believe anything he said? Could I sleep beside him without wondering what other secrets he was keeping? The answer was no. And we both knew it. But leaving wasn't simple. Nothing about this was simple. Because here's what nobody tells you about betrayal. It's not clean. It's not like in the movies where someone cheats or lies and you pack your bags and walk away with your head held high. Real betrayal is messy and complicated, and it makes you question everything, including yourself. I started questioning my own judgment. How did I not see this? Were there signs? There must have been signs. What kind of idiot doesn't notice that her husband is secretly visiting his child twice a week? I went over every detail of the last 2 years. Every Tuesday evening when he said he was working late. Every Saturday morning when he went to the gym. How did I not question it? How did I not know? And then the guilt came. Oh God, the guilt. Because there was a child in all of this. A 5-year-old little girl who didn't ask for any of this. Who just wanted her daddy, and I found myself hating her, actually hating a child, and then hating myself for hating her. Can you understand that? Can you understand how betrayal doesn't just break your heart but twists you up inside until you don't even recognize yourself anymore? A week after I found out, Daniel called me. I almost didn't answer, but Rachel convinced me I needed to. We needed to figure out logistics, the house, our finances, whether we were getting divorced. Can we meet? He asked. His voice sounded rough, like he hadn't been sleeping either. I don't want to see you. Please, Suzy. There are things I need to tell you. Things I should have told you a long time ago. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop, not the one where we first met. I couldn't handle that. A neutral place where I could leave if I needed to. He looked terrible. dark circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled, like he'd been wearing them for days. Part of me felt satisfaction at that. Good. He should suffer like I was suffering. But another part of me, that stupid, loving part that still remembered the man I married, wanted to reach across the table and comfort him. I hated that part of myself. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. I didn't respond, just waited. He took a deep breath. "I want to explain everything, from the beginning. Will you let me?" "Fine." And this is where the story gets even more complicated. Because what he told me next, I don't even know if I believe it. But I need to tell you. You need to hear this. "When I was growing up," he began, "my father was abusive. Not physically, never physically, but emotionally, psychologically. He was cruel. He would tell me I was worthless, that I'd never amount to anything, that I was a burden he never wanted. My mother she just let it happen. She never protected me. She never stood up for me." I knew some of this. He'd mentioned his difficult childhood, but never in detail, never like this. "When I was 15, I found out why my father hated me so much. I overheard them fighting. My mother told him that I wasn't his biological son, that she'd had an affair, gotten pregnant, and he'd agreed to raise me as his own. But he resented me every single day. And once I knew, God, Suzy, once I knew, everything made sense. Why he looked at me with such disgust, why nothing I did was ever good enough." Tears were streaming down his face now. "I promised myself I would never, ever do that to a child. I would never become my father. I would never bring a child into the world and resent them, hate them, fail them the way he failed me, Daniel." So when Emily told me she was pregnant, I panicked. All I could think was, what if I turn out like him? What if I'm a terrible father? What if I damage this child the way my father damaged me? So I ran. I paid child support, but I stayed away because I thought that was better than being a bad father. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. But it haunted me. Every day. Knowing I had a daughter out there and I was too much of a coward to be in her life. And then when Emily reached out, when she gave me another chance, I thought, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be the father my dad never was. "And you were," I said quietly. "That little girl in the grocery store? She loves you. She ran to you with complete trust and joy. You're a good father to her, Daniel." "But I should have told you," he said, his voice breaking. "From the moment I decided to be in her life, I should have told you. But I was scared. I was terrified that you'd leave me, that you'd hate me, that I'd lose you. And then the longer I waited, the harder it got, and I kept lying, I kept living this double life, and I destroyed everything." Here's where I need you to really pay attention, because this is the part where I had to make the hardest decision of my life. I sat there in that coffee shop, listening to my husband explain his trauma, his fears, his failures. And part of me understood. Part of me could see the scared little boy who grew up unwanted, who was terrified of becoming his father. But understanding doesn't erase betrayal. Trauma doesn't excuse lies. And good intentions don't repair broken trust. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I told him. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again. You didn't just lie to me about having a child. You let me believe there was something wrong with me for wanting children. You let me feel guilty, desperate, broken. You watched me grieve the family I'd never have, while you were secretly being a father to someone else. That's not just betrayal, Daniel. That's cruelty. I know. God, Suzy, I know. And I hate myself for it. I hate what I've done to you." "Do you love her, Mother?" The question surprised him. "Emily? No. We're friends. We co-parent well, but there's no romantic relationship. Do you love me?" "Yes, so much. You have to believe that." "I don't know what I believe anymore." We sat in silence for a long moment. Around us, life continued. People ordered coffee, laughed with friends, typed on laptops. Normal life. The kind of life I used to have before everything shattered. "What do you want, Daniel? If you could have anything, what would you want?" He looked at me with those eyes I'd once loved so much. I want my family. All of it. I want you, and I want Lily. I want us to figure out how to make this work. And more children? He hesitated. Just for a second, but I saw it. I don't know. Maybe someday. But right now you want me to accept that you have a daughter, to be part of her life, to help you raise her. But you still won't give me what I've wanted for 7 years. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. I was trying to keep my voice down, but anger was rising in my chest like a wave. You want me to give up my dream so you can have yours. You want me to be grateful for whatever crumbs of family you're willing to give me. You want me to settle for being a stepmother when I've always wanted to be a mother. Suzy. No, I'm done. I'm done sacrificing what I want for what you want. I'm done making myself smaller so you can be comfortable. I'm done. I stood up. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I want a divorce. Have you ever said something that you can't take back? Have you ever watched words leave your mouth and change everything forever? Tell me in the comments. Tell me your story. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Because this community, we're all we have. We're all each other has. The divorce process took 6 months. 6 months of lawyers and paperwork and dividing up a life we'd built together. The house went on the market. Our furniture, our books, our wedding gifts, everything had to be sorted, claimed, divided. But the hardest part wasn't the legal stuff. It was existing in the emotional aftermath. It was waking up every morning and remembering all over again that my marriage was over, that the man I loved had betrayed me in the deepest possible way, that I was 33 years old, divorced, and still childless. My therapist, Dr. Chen, helped me work through it. Week after week, I sat in her office and cried and raged and grieved. You're not just grieving the end of your marriage, she told me. You're grieving the future you thought you'd have. You're grieving the children you didn't get to have with him. You're grieving your trust, your innocence, your belief that love is enough. She was right. All of it was true, and it hurt so much I thought I might die from it. But I didn't die. I survived. Day by day, hour by hour, I survived. 4 months into the divorce process, something happened that changed everything again. I was at work, doing my rounds at the children's hospital where I'd worked for 8 years. I was checking on a 7-year-old girl named Maya, who was recovering from appendicitis when I heard a commotion in the hallway. A woman was crying, nearly hysterical. Please, someone help. My daughter, she can't breathe. I ran into the hallway and saw a blonde woman holding a small child. The child's lips were turning blue. It was Emily. And the child was Lily. Later, I would think about how impossible it was. What were the odds? But in that moment, I didn't think about anything except that a child was dying. What happened? I barked out, taking Lily from her arms. I don't know. We were at the park and she said her chest hurt and then she just collapsed. Does she have any allergies? Any medical conditions? No. Nothing. She's healthy. Please, you have to help her. I was already moving, running to the emergency bay, calling for doctors, for equipment. Another nurse helped me get Lily on a gurney. She wasn't breathing. Her little face was turning gray. Starting compressions. Someone called out. I should have stepped back. I should have let the other nurses handle it. But I couldn't. I couldn't watch Daniel's daughter die. Because despite everything, despite the betrayal, the lies, the pain, she was still just a child. An innocent child who didn't deserve any of this. I helped intubate her. I helped start an IV. I stood by while the doctors worked, and I prayed for the first time in years. Prayed to a God I wasn't even sure I believed in. Please, please save her, please. And then, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, she took a breath on her own. Then, another. Her color started returning. Her heart rate stabilized. She was going to be okay. I found Emily in the waiting room. She was bent over, her head in her hands, shaking. She's stable, I said quietly. Emily's head shot up. Her face was blotchy from crying, her eyes red and swollen. And when she saw me, really saw me, her face went even paler. You, she whispered. You're Daniel's wife. Ex-wife. Almost. Oh God. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know where else to bring her, and this was the closest hospital, and I didn't think. It's okay. She's going to be fine. It was an acute allergic reaction. Did she eat anything new? There was a birthday party at the park. They had peanut butter cookies, but she's never been allergic to peanuts before. Allergies can develop suddenly. The doctors want to keep her overnight for observation. But she's stable. Emily broke down completely then, just fell apart, and I found myself sitting next to her, this woman whose existence had destroyed my marriage, and putting my hand on her shoulder. Thank you, she sobbed. Thank you for saving her. I don't know what I would have done if... You don't have to thank me. I'm a nurse. It's what I do. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Emily said, I'm sorry. For everything. I know what Daniel did was wrong. I know he should have told you about Lily from the beginning. If it helps at all, I told him to, multiple times. But he was so scared of losing you, so he lied instead. Yes. And I let him. I should have. I don't know. I should have done something. Said something. But I was just focused on Lily, on making sure she had her father in her life, and I didn't think about you. About what this was doing to you. I'm sorry. I looked at this woman, this exhausted, terrified mother who was just trying to do her best for her daughter, and I realized something. I didn't hate her. I had hated her for months, blamed her for destroying my marriage, but she didn't destroy anything. Daniel did. He made the choices. He told the lies. She was just another victim of his deception. It's not your fault, I said quietly. He's the one who lied to both of us. Daniel arrived at the hospital an hour later. I was still there, finishing my shift but also unable to leave without knowing Lily was truly okay. He ran down the hallway, his face panicked, and Emily stood up to meet him. They hugged, and I watched them together, two people bound by their child, by their shared love for her, and I felt nothing. No jealousy, no pain, just exhaustion. He saw me then. Froze. Suzy? I was working when Emily brought her in. The doctors say she'll be fine. Peanut allergy. She'll need to carry an EpiPen from now on. You saved her? I did my job. He looked like he wanted to say something more, but I turned away. I couldn't do this. Not here. Not now. I finished my shift and went home to my new apartment, a small one-bedroom that felt empty and lonely, but was mine. And I realized something that night. Lying in my bed, staring at the ceiling. I was free. For the first time in 7 years, I was free to build the life I actually wanted. Not the life Daniel was willing to give me. Not the life I was settling for, but the life I deserved. But here's what I need you to understand. Here's the part that's important. Freedom isn't the same as happiness, liberation isn't the same as healing, and being right doesn't mean you don't still hurt. I still woke up some mornings and reached for Daniel before remembering he wasn't there. I still saw couples with children and felt that familiar ache in my chest. I still wondered if I'd made the right choice. If I should have tried harder. If I should have been willing to accept Lily as my own child and let that be enough. Dr. Chen told me those thoughts were normal. Grief isn't linear, she said. You're going to have good days and bad days, days where you feel strong and days where you question everything. That's part of healing. How long does it take? I asked. How long until I stop feeling like this? There's no timeline, but I promise you, Suzy, it gets easier. The pain becomes less sharp. The questions become less consuming. You learn to build a new life, a new identity, a new sense of who you are. She was right. Slowly, painfully, I did start to heal. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I made a decision. I wanted to be a mother. That hadn't changed. That fundamental desire, that deep need to create a family, was still there. But I didn't need a husband to make that happen. I went to a fertility clinic. I looked into IVF using donor sperm. I researched adoption. I talked to single mothers, read books, joined support groups. And you know what I discovered? I didn't need Daniel. I never needed Daniel. I needed someone who supported my dreams, who celebrated my desires, who wanted the same things I wanted, and if I couldn't find that person, I could do it alone. Does that scare you? Does it scare you to think about taking that kind of leap, making that kind of choice, building a family on your own terms? It scared me. God, it terrified me. But it also felt right. For the first time in years, I was moving towards something I wanted instead of away from something I'd lost. I'm not going to tell you that everything worked out perfectly. I'm not going to say I found happiness and never looked back and lived happily ever after. Because that's not how life works. That's not how healing works. That's not how becoming yourself again works. What I will tell you is this. I survived. After everything Daniel did to me, after all the lies and betrayal and heartbreak, I survived. Some days were harder than others. Some days I cried in my car before work. Some days I saw Daniel's posts on social media, photos of him with Lily, being the father he refused to be for any child we might have had, and I felt that old rage bubbling up. But I kept going. I put one foot in front of the other. I went to therapy. I leaned on my friends. I threw myself into my work, into caring for other people's children, and I let that fill some of the emptiness inside me. And slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice it happening, I started to feel like myself again. Not the self I was before Daniel. I could never go back to that naive, trusting person, but a new self, stronger, wiser, more careful with my heart, but also more certain of what I deserved. Do you know what the hardest part was? Want to know what kept me up at night? It wasn't the divorce. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was the time. The 7 years I gave him. The years I could have spent finding someone who actually wanted the same things I wanted. The years I could have spent becoming a mother. I was 33 when I found out about Lily. By the time the divorce was final, I was 34. And I felt every single one of those years pressing down on me like a weight. You're still young, people would say, trying to comfort me, but they didn't understand. In fertility terms, 34 isn't young. Every year matters. Every month matters. And I'd wasted 7 years on a man who never intended to give me what I needed. That's the part that still makes me angry. Not the lies, not the secret child, not even the betrayal. It's the time, the precious, irreplaceable time he stole from me. I want to take a moment here and talk directly to you. Yes, you, watching this right now. If you're in a relationship where you're compromising on something fundamental, something that defines who you are or who you want to become, please listen to me. Don't wait. Don't give them more time. Don't believe them when they say they might change their mind someday. Don't sacrifice your dreams for someone else's limitations. I did that. I waited. I believed. I sacrificed. And all it got me was 7 years older and a broken heart. Please. Learn from my mistake. Please value yourself enough to demand what you need. Please don't settle for crumbs when you deserve the whole feast. Where are you watching from? What's your story? Are you waiting for someone to change? Are you compromising on something that matters deeply to you? Tell me in the comments. Let's support each other. Let's be honest with each other. And please, hit that subscribe button. This channel is going to be about real stories, real pain, real healing. No sugarcoating, no fairy tales. Just the truth about love and loss and learning to rebuild. Let me tell you what happened next. Because there's more to this story. There's always more. About a year after the divorce, I got a call from Daniel. I almost didn't answer. We'd agreed to only communicate through lawyers about finalizing the last few details of our split, but something made me pick up. Suzy? His voice was hesitant. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. What do you want, Daniel? I wanted to thank you. For saving Lily's life. I never properly thanked you. You don't need to thank me. Like I said, I was just doing my job. No, it was more than that. Emily told me you stayed with her, that you were kind to her. You didn't have to do that. After everything I did to you, you still saved my daughter and supported her mother. I don't even have words for what that means. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? How are you doing? He asked after a long pause. I'm fine. Are you happy? Was I happy? What a strange question. What a complicated question. I'm getting there, I said honestly. I'm building a life. It's not the life I planned, but it's mine. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy. I know I destroyed that chance for us, but I hope you find it with someone else someday. Daniel, why are you really calling? Another long pause. Then, I wanted you to know that you were right. About everything. I should have been honest from the beginning. I should have let you go when I realized I couldn't give you what you wanted. I was selfish, and I was a coward, and I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. Is this supposed to make me feel better? No, I wanted you to know, that I understand what I did, and that I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry. Okay, is there any chance, any possibility that someday we could be friends? I know that's asking too much, but no. The word came out harder than I intended. No, Daniel. We can't be friends. We can't be anything. You betrayed me in the deepest way possible. You lied to me for years. You let me believe I was the problem when all along you were the problem. And I've forgiven you. I had to forgive you for my own peace, but that doesn't mean I want you in my life. I understand. Good. Don't call me again. I hung up. And I cried. Not because I missed him, but because that chapter was finally, truly closed. Here's what they don't tell you about betrayal. Even after you've healed, even after you've moved on, even after you've built a new life, the scars remain. I'm more careful now with my heart. More skeptical. More guarded. When men show interest in me, I find myself looking for the lies, waiting for the other shoe to drop, expecting betrayal before I've even given them a chance. Is that fair? No. Is it understandable? Yes. Dr. Chen calls it protective adaptation. My brain is trying to protect me from being hurt again. But she also reminds me that not everyone is Daniel. Not every man will lie. Not every relationship will end in betrayal. You have to be willing to be vulnerable again, she told me. Not reckless, not naive, but open. Otherwise, you'll never let anyone in. She's right. I know she's right. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two very different things. So where am I now? What's my life like today? I'm 36 years old. I'm still working as a pediatric nurse, still taking care of other people's children, still feeling that bittersweet ache every time I hold a newborn. I'm still single. I've dated a little, but nothing serious. Nothing that felt right. Maybe I'm being too picky. Maybe I'm self-sabotaging. Or maybe I'm just finally learning what I actually need in a partner and refusing to settle. I'm still considering becoming a single mother. I've had consultations at fertility clinics. I've started the paperwork for adoption. I haven't made a final decision yet, but I'm getting closer. Every day, I'm getting closer to taking that leap, and I'm okay. Most days, I'm actually okay. Some days I'm more than okay. Some days, I'm genuinely happy. That's not how I thought this story would end. When Daniel told me about Lily, when my world imploded in that grocery store, I thought I would never be okay again. I thought the pain would destroy me, but it didn't. I'm still here, still standing, still moving forward. You know what I want you to take away from this story? It's not that all men are liars. It's not that you can never trust anyone. It's not that love always ends in betrayal. What I want you to understand is this. You are stronger than you think. You can survive things you never thought you could survive. You can rebuild after devastation. You can find yourself again after losing yourself completely. But here's the thing, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to be this strong. You shouldn't have to survive betrayal and lies and having your dreams stolen from you. So please, if you're in a relationship where something fundamental isn't right, if you're compromising on things that matter to your soul, if you're waiting for someone to change or trying to convince yourself that love is enough, stop. Stop waiting. Stop compromising. Stop sacrificing yourself. You deserve someone who wants the same things you want. You deserve someone who's honest. You deserve someone who sees your dreams as just as important as their own. Don't settle for less. Don't make my mistakes. Don't give away years of your life to someone who isn't giving you what you need in return. I need to tell you one more thing before I finish this story. About 2 months ago, I ran into Emily and Lily at the park. It was accidental. I'd started running in the mornings to deal with stress, and I was doing my usual route when I saw them at the playground. Lily was bigger now, older. She was playing on the swings, her dark curls flying behind her, laughing with pure joy. And for a moment, I felt that familiar pain. That's what I wanted. That's what Daniel denied me. Emily saw me and froze. Then she walked over, hesitant. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi. How are you?" "I'm good. You?" "We're good. Lily's good. She's about to start first grade." We stood there awkwardly, two women connected by the same man, by the same betrayal, by the same complicated history. "I want you to know something," Emily said suddenly. "Daniel regrets what he did. He talks about you sometimes, about how much he hurt you. He's trying to be better, for Lily's sake. He's in therapy, working through his stuff with his father, trying to break those patterns. Good for him. I know you don't want to hear this, but you're right, I don't. He really did love you, Suzy." I looked at her then. Really looked at her. Maybe he did. But love isn't enough. Love without honesty is just pretty words. Love without respect is just manipulation. And love without partnership, without actually wanting the same things, is just two people using each other to avoid being alone. Emily didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, "You're right. I'm sorry. You deserved better." "Yes, I did," Lily called out then. "Mommy, watch me." Emily waved at her daughter, smiled, then turned back to me. "She asks about you sometimes, about the nurse who saved her life. I've told her your name, told her you were a friend. I hope that's okay." A friend. That's how she described me to her daughter. Not your father's ex-wife, not the woman your father betrayed, just a friend. "That's fine," I said. "Thank you again. For everything. For saving her. For being kind when you had every right to be cruel. I could never be cruel to a child. It wasn't her fault. No. It was ours. Mine and Daniel's. And mostly Daniel's." I nodded. Then I finished my run and left them there at the playground, a mother and daughter enjoying a beautiful morning, and I felt at peace. Finally, truly at peace. So here's the ending. Here's where my story is right now. I'm healing. I'm growing. I'm learning to trust again, slowly. I'm building a life that's mine, that reflects what I actually want instead of what I was willing to settle for. Will I become a mother? I don't know yet. Some days I'm sure I will. Some days I think maybe I can be okay without it. Maybe my purpose is different than I thought. Maybe I'm meant to care for other people's children, to be that nurse who shows up in the hardest moments and makes a difference. Or maybe I'll still have my own someday, with a partner who actually wants the same things I want, or on my own. Time will tell. What I do know is this: I survived Daniel's betrayal. I survived the lies, the secret child, the stolen years. I survived the divorce, the grief, the rage, the heartbreak. I survived all of it. And if I can survive that, I can survive anything. I can build anything. I can become anything. That's what I want you to remember from my story. Whatever you're going through right now, whatever betrayal you're facing, whatever pain is crushing you, you can survive it. You're stronger than you know. You're braver than you think. And on the other side of this pain is a version of yourself that's wiser, stronger, more certain of what you deserve. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for being part of this community, for letting me share my pain and my healing. Please, tell me your story in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if you've experienced betrayal like this. Tell me how you survived. Let's support each other. And please, please subscribe. Hit that button. Join this community. Because we need each other. We need these stories. We need to know we're not alone. My name is Suzy, I'm 36 years old. My husband told me he didn't want kids, then a little girl called him daddy right in front of me, and I survived. I'm still surviving. I'm still here, and so are you. We're all still here, still fighting, still healing, still hoping for better days. Thank you for listening.